The missing hiker who booked a room online last night. The motel room phone was ringing. It shouldn't have been. No one had checked in. The night manager at Rainfall Lodge, a roadside motel off Highway 706, near Mount Rainier, stared at the flickering screen showing an empty room number, room 12. He hesitated before picking up. A faint rustling came through, followed by a man whispering, I never made it back. The line went dead. When police arrived the next morning, the room was still locked from the inside, perfectly clean. No one had stayed there. But according to the online booking log, Evan Matthews had reserved it just after 11:42 p.m. the previous night. He'd checked in digitally through the motel's website, but he never picked up his key. His car sat quietly in the lot. The hood was cold, the driver's seat empty. His hiking bag and folded map rested on the passenger side, and his phone still glowed on the console, battery low, charging cable plugged in. It was playing a video he recorded earlier that evening. Him smiling, wind rushing past as he pointed toward the dark silhouette of Mount Rainier behind him. That was the last anyone saw of him. 2 days later, a search team found something strange near the Eagle Spine Trail, about 3 miles from the motel. The soil looked freshly disturbed, like someone had been crawling, dragging their hands through the mud. But there were no footprints, no signs of animals, just long, shallow grooves that ended abruptly at the tree line. Locals whispered about that trail, how hikers sometimes heard voices calling their names when the fog rolled in. One man, years ago, claimed he'd followed the voice of his missing brother for miles until he realized the sound was coming from his own direction. When the sheriff replayed the motel security footage, Evan never appeared. But at exactly 12:13 a.m., room 12's door handle twitched just once, and the motion sensor light outside flickered on, even though no one was there. Later that same night, a truck driver reported seeing a barefoot man walking along the edge of the highway at dawn, his clothes soaked and face pale, staring blankly into the trees. The driver slowed down to help, but when he glanced in his rear-view mirror seconds later, the road was empty. The following week, the motel manager started receiving automatic notifications from the booking system. Each night, the same reservation was being made again under the same name, Evan Matthews. The timestamp never changed. 11:42 p.m. every night. On the 7th night, the manager finally decided to unlock room 12 himself. The bed was perfectly made. The lights were off, and on the nightstand lay a folded receipt, time-stamped with that night's date, and written on the back in shaky handwriting were 4 words: I made it back. But the pen ink was still wet, and no one had entered the room since it was last locked 2 days after Evan's disappearance. The small town of Ashford was buzzing with quiet fear. Local news channels replayed his smiling face from a social media post, backpack on, thumb up, caption, one last sunrise before heading home. He had never made it home. Detective Laura Bennett was assigned to the case. She'd seen her share of missing hikers, but this one bothered her. Everything about it was too neat. No struggle, no footprints, and a reservation that seemed to exist without the person who made it. When she arrived at a Rainfall Lodge, the air inside felt stale, like a place that had been sealed too long. The motel manager, Tom, led her to room 12. I swear, ma'am, he said, keys trembling in his hand. The system says he checked in, but look, the key's still right here. Inside, the room was spotless. Bed made, curtains drawn. The only odd thing was a faint smell, like damp soil. Laura noticed faint streaks of mud near the carpet edge, leading toward the bathroom door. She crouched down and touched it. Still moist, she turned the bathroom light on. The mirror was fogged, even though the air was cold, and across the glass were words drawn by a finger. I never left. Tom's face went pale. That wasn't there this morning. Laura took a photo, heart racing. The words began to fade, slowly, as if someone had just written them seconds ago. She collected Evan's phone from evidence back at the station. The last video file was corrupted, just white noise and faint breathing. But when she slowed the audio, another sound emerged beneath it, a whisper, a voice repeating his name again and again. Evan, come back. Experts confirmed it wasn't an echo. Someone else was there with him. The next morning, Laura retraced his steps toward Eagle's Spine Trail, following the GPS coordinates from his last phone ping. The woods were silent, except for the low hiss of wind. The deeper she went, the colder it became. Half a mile in, she found something unexpected. A second trail not listed on any map, marked only by an old wooden sign that read, Rainfall Cabin, closed since 1998. She hesitated, then walked closer. The ground was damp, almost spongy, as though it had rained underground. Every few steps, she heard soft crunches behind her, like someone walking barefoot on leaves. But when she turned, no one was there. Her radio crackled. Static, then a faint voice. Room 12, check-in confirmed. She froze. That was the motel's automated message tone. When she turned around again, a figure stood between the trees, motionless, pale, wearing the same red jacket Evan had on in his video. Evan, she whispered. The figure tilted its head, and the radio in her hand screeched with feedback before going silent. By the time she blinked, he was gone, but his footprints had appeared in the mud, leading deeper into the closed trail. Laura followed, and halfway down the path, she found a single motel key hanging from a branch. The tag read, Room 12. Detective Laura Bennett barely slept that night. The image of that pale figure in the woods kept replaying in her mind. The red jacket, the stillness, the sudden vanishing. Every instinct told her to back off, to treat it like just another unsolved missing person case. But something about Room 12 felt unfinished, like it was still waiting for her. By morning, she returned to the Rainfall Lodge. The sky was gray, the mountain peaks swallowed by mist. The motel's neon sign buzzed faintly, half the letters flickering out, spelling only rain out LDG. Tom, the manager, looked exhausted. Detective, he said quietly, you should see this. He handed her a printed reservation list. Evan's booking had duplicated again at exactly 11:42 p.m., the same time as every night before. But this time, the system logged an auto check-in confirmation followed by a digital signature. The name wasn't Evan Matthews anymore. It said Laura Bennett. Laura felt her stomach drop. This is a mistake, she said quickly. But when Tom showed her the IP address used for booking, her blood ran cold. It traced back to her own phone. She stormed out, dialing her cell to check for malware or hacking, but the screen froze, then flickered to black. For a split second before it died, her wallpaper had changed to a blurred image of Room 12, the door slightly open. That afternoon, she decided to visit the Rainfall Cabin, the abandoned site Evan's GPS had pointed toward. The structure stood crooked in the woods, half-eaten by moss and rot. Broken windows stared out like empty eyes. Inside, damp air clung to her lungs. She swept her flashlight across the interior, old furniture, overturned chairs, and a rusted metal sign on the wall reading Property of Rainfall Lodge. The cabin once belonged to the same family that owned the motel. Then she saw it, a guest ledger, dusty and warped, lying open on the counter. The last written name, faded but still legible, was Evan Matthews, dated the same night of his disappearance. But beneath his name, a faint line had appeared, written in new ink, shaky and uneven. Laura Bennett checked in. Her flashlight flickered. The temperature dropped fast. Somewhere behind her, a floorboard creaked. She turned the beam toward the noise, and there he was. Evan stood in the corner, drenched, eyes empty but glinting faintly in the light. His lips moved, but no sound came out. "Evan," she whispered. Then, suddenly, his mouth stretched wider than humanly possible, and a low, distorted voice spilled out. Not his own. "Why did you book the room?" The flashlight died. Darkness swallowed the cabin. Laura stumbled backward, slamming into the doorframe. The sound of heavy breathing filled the room. It wasn't hers. She clawed for the door, but it wouldn't open. On the other side, faintly glowing through crack, was a number 12, painted in dripping black. She pounded on the door, screaming for help, and just before the door gave way, she heard the motel's front desk bell ring in the distance. A new voice said calmly, "Check-in complete." The next morning, the motel's cleaning staff found room 12 unlocked for the first time in weeks. The blinds were half open, letting in weak gray light from the overcast sky. The room looked lived in, bed slightly rumpled, a jacket draped across the chair, and a police badge lying on the nightstand beside a half-empty cup of coffee. The name on the badge read, Detective Laura Bennett. Tom stood frozen in the doorway. He hadn't seen her leave. He hadn't even heard her come back. He called her phone, but it rang from inside the room, buzzing softly under the pillow, still showing one missed call from Evan Matthews. When officers arrived, they found the same damn footprints leading from the bathroom to the bed, stopping abruptly at the center of the room, as if whoever made them had simply vanished mid-step. No sign of Laura. No forced entry. No fingerprints except her own. Later that night, as rain swept across the mountains, Tom sat behind the motel counter, trying to make sense of the day. Around 11:42 p.m., the booking system chimed again. His eyes went wide as a new reservation appeared on the screen. Same pattern, same timestamp. But this time, it wasn't just one name. Two names were listed, Evan Matthews and Laura Bennett. The monitor flickered. The lights dimmed. From the security camera feed, room 12's door creaked open on its own. Inside, the curtains swayed though the windows were sealed shut. A faint shadow passed across the screen. A figure standing by the mirror, head tilted slightly, watching. Tom leaned closer to the monitor. "Hello?" he whispered instinctively, even though he knew no one could hear him. Then the motel phone rang. The caller ID read room 12. His hand shook as he lifted the receiver. Static filled his ear for several seconds before a voice, soft, layered, like two people speaking at once, spoke. "The room's ready." The line went dead. Tom dropped the phone and ran toward the hallway. The air felt heavy, thick with moisture. Room 12's door stood wide open, its light flickering faintly. Inside, the TV was on, displaying the motel's digital booking page. The mouse cursor blinked over a new field waiting to be filled. As he watched, invisible keystrokes began typing on their own. Guest name. Then slowly, letter by letter, his name appeared. Tom's reflection on the dark TV screen changed. He wasn't standing alone anymore. Behind him, two figures stared. Evan, soaked and still, and Laura, pale with hollow eyes. Both were smiling faintly, their faces illuminated by the flickering TV glow. The sound of typing stopped. A final message appeared on the screen. "Thank you for checking in." The room light blinked once. Then everything went dark. By morning, room 12 was empty again. No signs of struggle, no guests on record. Only one thing had changed. The online booking system now showed 3 active reservations, all under the same time, all confirmed, all waiting to check in.